Thank you. How are you? Good? Tired? This last presentation so I'm standing between you and the drink, so I'm sure that you are very excited to hear, particularly with the topic on developing research at the intersection between arts and business. So I will try to, I can talk about this subject for 20 minutes, 1 hour, 3 days, 3 months. Without not stop using my Italian English, which makes it even more exciting. But I will try to be short, also because I noticed, speaking about bridging the gap, that the only people with a tie is me and you. This basically tells a lot about my background. Because I come from a business school, I'm an engineer, I don't have any background in arts. So what I've been doing is basically trying to understand and figure out, provide frameworks and develop basically understanding about why business should be adopting arts in business. And so the idea about developing research is about kind of using the business approach to make sense of why and to engage with artists. And so the idea of having today a conference on Minding the Gap is about really starting to start this conversation as a part of the activity that we will be developing in the Innovation Insights Hub, part of the conversation that, as Nigel and Jeremy has already pointed out, has already started by some time within our university. But where we are when we talk about Mind the Gap in terms of collaboration between arts and business, the real collaboration. Well, the way how I see this collaboration, and this is the result of some qualitative research that I've developed in different case studies, this is how the relationship is between arts and business. There is a big gap. On one hand, there are business people, on the other hand, the artists, and basically this is the first archetype of relationship that I call the observers. So they observe each other, and with artists thinking that we don't want to do anything with arts, with business actually, except we want their own money. And on the other hand, the business say, arts has not really nothing to offer to us. So the only thing that we can do is to support for patronage, philanthropy or sponsorship some of the activities. But what is happening nowadays in the market for all the challenges that we've been discussing so far, and I will recall later on, is that really some business are starting to understand that actually artists and creative processes have really something to offer to their business. And here there is the second category, the second typology of businesses starting relationship with artists or creative sector. These are the businesses that I call the adopters. These are the businesses basically that they understand that they can use kind of off of the shelf the artists, the creative, either for marketing purposes or for design their own product, to build their own experience. But the kind of idea is really using the arts, very instrumental, because we need artists for some specific business purposes. But there is not really a deep understanding why to forge and why to bring the artists or the arts in general. There is a lot of around experiential learning, but still, at the end of the day, we need to go back to the real business. And real business is not about arts, it's not about creativity. But then there are very few pioneers that I call the integrators. These are organizations that have really understood that they want to be different. They want to be different kind of organization. They want to ingrain something different in terms of principle, processes. They want to think differently, and they are starting to explore how they can integrate arts, not only as an experiential or training tool, but arts in whatever they do with the organization. There are few organizations, usually these are medium-sized organizations, but there is a kind of group organization also in the public sector, not only in the private sector, that are starting to understand the arts has a lot to offer to them. Particularly, I've been working in Italy with an organization which is producing kitchen oven, and this organization is using arts everywhere for designing their product, for exhibition, for training their people. Whatever they do, they are trying to use arts, and they create a foundation specifically created to run all the arts-based initiatives in their own business. So these are the three categories of businesses, but basically we are very far from an integration of the arts in business, from the creation of this partnership, strong partnership. So where is the hub? What is the scope of that? This is the symbol that we have developed with the help of some artists from CSM. The idea of the Innovation Insights Hub is here, in this symbol. The idea is to try to explore how we can really connect the business side on that side and the artist on this side with the idea that is not, so actually we changed the idea. We didn't want to talk about bridging this gap, but we want to talk about a note, integrating, putting together with the idea that arts has something to offer to business when arts is really integrated in the DNA of the organization. So the mission of our research center is, well, actually it's not a research center, technically, is an initiative, a research development capacity initiative of the University of Arts London, is basically to unlock this power to create more understanding around this collaboration between arts and business. And what we are going to develop, we are starting to develop, is on one hand, traditional research in terms of academic research, so just to understand the production of papers, traditional research, but also we are quite keen to develop practical-based research, so basically to engage with the businesses, exploring how the arts are producing and impacting what they do, how the arts can be used to deal with the challenges, the problems that they have. In terms of network of activity, the hub is basically a cross-college initiative, and the idea is to engage as much as possible all the colleagues around the university. So I am not an artist. I can define myself as someone who likes to model the processes, but basically when we go back to the point of implementing the arts in business, hopefully the idea is to engage the colleagues across the university in working with businesses, in working with organizations that are interested in experimenting, investigating how the arts can make a difference in their own business. What are the two key research questions that we are trying to address? So basically these are the two drivers. These are very broad research questions. The first one is what is the role and relevance of the arts in the 21st century business organization? But then the concept of business here has to be interpreted in a quite broad way. So, because I believe that arts have a lot to offer, particularly in a public organization. But then also the understanding of why, what, and how the arts can be applied within an organization. And very quickly, I will try just to give you some insights about what we are trying to develop in our research initiative, focusing on the why, what, and how. The why the arts are important, why organizations are more and more interested in engaging with the creative sector, with artists. The what basically is arts in business, because it's not only training, it's not only design, but it's much more. And then finally, how we are trying to develop our activities in our research initiative. The why is very much about the value of arts in business. As I was saying in the introduction, the why is not about creating more money. It's not about money. It's about something else. It's about transforming the organization. It's about making the organization a better organization. But the real key issue that is driving, and will drive, I believe, that is my vision, the arts in business, is because management and the economy in general are dealing with new challenges. Jeremy was stressing some key challenges. I won't follow up the challenges, and in particular distinguishing somehow these big, huge challenges in two categories. On one hand, the management challenges, so the kind of challenges that managers have in their own business, in their own organization, and economic challenges. What are the new value drivers of value creation in the new economy? Looking ahead to the management in the 21st century, Clive was stressing, but we raised this point, that all the management is basically stuck at the beginning of the 20th century. I mean, the main innovation in management is the principles introduced by Taylor. So basically from the theory and the principle introduced from Taylor, with the management never innovates really. Because what we have been doing in the business school is only developing further this ingenieuristic and rational approach. So management today is, when we think about management, I like to think about management in this way, like the cockpit. What managers like to do is to have a set of indicators, their own balance scorecards, their own strategy planning, their own reports, with the idea that they can control their organizations and lead their organization towards the direction that they want. But this is not what is happening in nowadays market, in nowadays economy. Economy, as we know, is more and more characterized by new features. We talk about complexity, fluidity, ambiguity, stress. So basically, organizations start to understand that what makes the difference are the people. Because you can have all your indicators, but what is really making a difference is not just looking backward, but you need to look forward. You have the people that not only smile with their own indicator, but they are able to contribute to the organization. So the main point, trying to summarize something that could be a long conversation, is that organizations are realizing that they need to develop new kind of skills, new kind of competence as an organization, and move from the vision of a machine-like system, something that can be controlled mechanically, towards a more techno-human system. So basically it's what I call moving from a modern management perspective towards a post-modern management perspective, where the concept of post-modern is about integrating, as someone was saying in the audience, the rational thinking with this new creative thinking. So this is where managers are, and there are many different challenges that have been exploring in the literature that can support that statement. Where we are in terms of economic development, there are also, from economic point of view, new value drivers that are affecting how organizations create value. And these are new challenges that organizations are facing that justify and explain why they are more and more interested in creating relationship, creative partnership with artists and arts organizations. In order to express, to summarize what are these new challenges, this is what I developed this model, what I call the 60 pillars of sustainable value creation for organizations. The basic idea that in the 21st century, organization will be challenged to govern these new value drivers. I will go very quickly through each of them and try to give you an overview. So the first point is, and we are all quite aware of this, is that more and more we are living in experience-based economy. What matters for organization is not only to produce product, but more and more organizations find themselves in selling experience, creating experience. And from that point of view, I have one of my preferred example, first of all, because I am Italian, is a Ducati, and second thing is because I have a Ducati, unfortunately back in Italy, not in Milan. And Ducati actually, the idea of Ducati, they even patent the rumble, the noise of the engine. There are only two bikes in the world that you can recognize without seeing them, and this is Ducati and Harley Davidson. And they have patented with the musician the noise of the engine. Why? Because if you are a biker, you want to feel when you are in front of the traffic light, the vibration and the sound of your bike. That is the experience, nothing to do with the mechanical things. So this is just an example, but we can go through many of that examples. The point is that we are more and more living in an experience-based economy where we are challenged, organizations are challenged to create intangible value, to embed in their product experience this value that is related to the aesthetic dimension, the design, the experience, and many other dimensions. The second E of success for the future is related to emotion. When we talk about emotion, this is another key concept. In all the management literature, emotion has always been considered as something to put in the corner, something to control. When we're talking about emotion, hey, the emotion, and then you keep emotion at home. In reality, the most recently, organizations are realizing that emotion is a key dimension. Neuroscience is telling us the reason for that. to support decision making, to support solving problems. And we talk, Steve Jobs was kind of pioneer, stressing the role of emotion in creating new product, in excellence in business. But actually, in this case, I want to bring you an example. This is a Cleveland Clinic, which is one of the leading hospitals in US. And they've been going through a turnaround, basically a transformation, focusing on one dimension to become the to become an excellent healthcare organization in US. And I have a very short video. I will not go through all the video because we want to keep this short, but just to express or to present why emotions are becoming extremely important, particularly in the context of healthcare organization. I don't want to go through all the video because I don't know. But the point is, when we think about healthcare organization, what kind of business they are in? They are not only in the healthcare business, they are in the business of managing people and managing emotions. So they realize that an important way of making a difference in what they do, create extraordinary performance, is really to take care of emotion, understanding the role of emotion. But then emotion has a many different roles within the organization. This is just an example to let you understand how we handle this dimension there, where our video like this helps to understand how to change your perspective about life or about what you do. Organization, the third E, are more and more concerned about energy. It's interesting that Google have regular courses on how to manage your energy. And many other organizations have created a meditation room where you can basically engage with your energy. And actually, until I was not living in London, I was not realizing how important is managing your energy. When you go out of the office, everyone is running and you go in this depressive mood of the tube. So you think how you need to recharge your batteries, your energy, in order to be really high performing. Energy is becoming another dimension, which energy is for action. Here I have other videos that can help to understand what is important, how is important this for leadership development in particular. The fourth E, ethics. All the financial crises, all the problems that many organizations have when we talk about trust, when we talk about the behavior, is about the ethics, how organization can handle this difficult subject of ethics, which is related to sustainability, which is related to social value. Well, the problem is values, belief, mission, vision. Many of these concepts in business are very arid concepts. How can we make tangible, understandable, close to people concepts like the values of an organization? What they do, the organization, they create a booklet with the list of the values. many organizations started to understand that they need to engage people differently. So they can bring in photographer, asking people to make sense of their value, of their culture. So all this concept can be dealt with in organizational context in a completely different way. Environment, the fifth E. Environment is not only about the natural environment, which is very important. Urban regeneration, social impact, and business impact on the natural environment are very important. And these impacts can be managed through the arts. But in particular, it's becoming extremely important the workplace. How do we shape workplaces that are able to create an atmosphere? One of the tag from the previous presentation, an atmosphere where people can feel wow. So the well-being, another concept, where people can express the best of themselves. And this brings directly to the sixth E of success. Today, the challenge within organization is not that people don't know what to do. They know very well what to do. The problem is that they don't want to do what they know how to do. So the problem is, how can we make sure that people are engaged? And the engagement is very much about energy, passion, and all these dimensions. So again, how do we manage all these value drivers that are becoming extremely important? Here, I have another video, but I will skip this one. So these are the two main challenges that organizations have. Managerial challenges and new value drivers that are driving and affecting the competitive success of the organization. So what arts can do within organization? My perspective of the arts in organization is the arts are aesthetic technologies. When we think about the technology, we talk about IT technology. What the arts are, at the end, from utilitarian, instrumental point of view, are aesthetic technology, are tools, frameworks, approaches, principles that can be used in order to manage the aesthetic dimension of an organization. And when I talk about aesthetics dimension of an organization, I'm not talking about making the organization beautiful, embellishing. I'm talking about how the organization is experiencing, how people experience with their senses, how the organization is using their senses to make sense of what's happening internally, inside, and what's happening outside, and how to engage with all the stakeholders. So, from practical point of view, what is emerging is that arts can be used either as a way to support organizational learning, so for people, leadership, team development, or creativity, whatever, or very importantly, and for me this is a very important point, as a way to create intangible value. And when I say intangible value that can be created into the products, and this is the concept of design if you want, but intangible value that can be created in a building like this. What is really echoing this building is an energy, and how you create this energy elsewhere. How you make build and so on in other concepts. So intangible value is really a multi-dimensional value that can be applied in many different contexts. How arts can be applied within the organization, very quickly, can be applied in terms of bringing artists, so skills, competence coming from the creative world. In terms of practices, the rehearsal room or approaches that are used in the art school or in the arts domain or in the creative domain. In terms of products, using the product as a totem, as a way to create a new kind of energy, or basically as a vector for intangible value, and these are the artifacts if you want, and this can be artworks or can be just artifacts, as Clyde was expressed in terms of artful things that are developed by people, and then very importantly also the principles. Because the principles from the arts world are very related to the human side, to be really a human being. And that is where all the value, the culture dimension come in. And these dimensions are very important in the business, because this dimension can be held, can be used within the organization in order to develop the knowledge base, the new competencies of the organization, which ultimately have an impact on the performance of an organization. So why, what, aesthetic technology, how to understand the role and the relevance of the arts for organization innovation, and then where the Innovation Hub is positioned. So what we are trying to do with the Innovation Insights Hub is to develop research, as I was introducing, with the idea to investigate, develop and test approaches, frameworks, tools that can help to design, manage, and then assess the arts-based initiative. So with the idea of supporting organizational development. So basically, The idea is to investigate how we can model, how we can make sense, how we can describe, so building evidences, creating framework like the one that Clive was using, and is being published in my book, or other framework that can be used in order to understand how to develop strategies around the engagement with the arts. Frameworks that can help to assess the impact. And when we talk about the assessment of the impact, we can talk about building a similar to cockpit as we were describing at the beginning of this presentation, a metric-based approach, or as more and more emphasizing, supporting, advocating, building maps as a way to make sense of how arts work within the organization, what are the mechanisms, how basically these creative processes making a difference within an organization. So concluding, the very fundamental assumption that we have in our research initiative is that the wealth generation, the prosperity, if you want, of organization, but at large of the economy, is based on the roots. And these roots are not just the knowledge assets, as we have learned from the knowledge economy of the 20th century. But as a part of these roots, there are the human dimension that Clive was talking about, soft, but these human dimensions are related to new competitive factors that are energy, passion, moral, imagination, creativity. All these dimensions are part of the realm of creativity and arts. And it's there that arts can provide a lot for business. So what we are trying to do, basically, is to develop, possibly, or to contribute to develop what we call arts-based management, a discipline where we explore how arts can be applied in business and can make a difference within the organization. Thank you very much.